great devotees, and there's no consideration. So we heard how Prabhupada was, Shyamasundar Prabhu was speaking so nicely at those inconceivable times when how he just accepted everyone and never considered anything except that they were willing to chant the holy name. If let him touch the mridanga background. If he would go near the kitchen, they would, do a whole puja, clean everything. But Prabhupada never, considered any of those things. He had the full realization from Lord Chaitanya that anyone who will take to chanting the holy name of the Lord will get purified. I can't speak on such, exalted levels, but we've seen this happening. We see it happening still all over the world. All kinds of people. When I was in South Africa last year, in Johannesburg, before the Sunday feast, one lady told me, "There's one girl here, she wants to talk to you." Sounded serious, so I said, "Well, after the feast." I thought it would be some problems. So this girl came and she said, I was a drug dealer for so many years. I was a drug addict. I was living from that. And I started chanting and I left everything. And what should I do now? I just suddenly gave it all up. Just don't have it, only want to chant. So it was quite easy to counsel her. And I just said, just keep chanting and Krishna will help you. She said, that's what I thought. So we see the power. It's happening. Lord Chaitanya did it. He chanted anywhere and everywhere. He was criticized by the Brahmanas, for allowing low-class people to chant. They actually thought that the holy name could become contaminated. Their knowledge of Krishna was so small that they're thinking that that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Pure, is Paryagats Chukram, Akayam Avrinam, Ashnavyaram Shudam, Apapa Vidam, that Krishna can't be contaminated by any association, nor can, not only that, but anything that comes in contact with him will be purified. And he's given that mercy then to this Kali Yuga. We were hearing about Kali Yuga. I lost track if it was last night. It's Kalir Dosha. It is so much, all these diseases, all these things that are going on, no one could have imagined. When it was stated just at the end of Dwapara Yuga that Indian people would be eating, killing cows, and they couldn't believe that. It was inconceivable. But now it's just considered, like all these. I saw one rock and roll album once. It was called "What Used to Be Vices Are Now Virtues." That was the title. It's Kali Yuga. What used to be considered very sinful is now considered very nice. We go in London and Soho area. It's quite well known for various sinful activities. So 100 years ago, it was illegal to be homosexual. But now it's illegal to criticize a homosexual. But they also like the kirtan very much, all their drunkenness. And, next to the temple, there's a bar that specializes, and the owner gives very nice donations to the He bought some sets of books. He gives for sweets for Janmashtami. They're getting purified. Everyone is getting purified by this chanting of the holy name, and it is stunning to even Yamaraj. And it's shocking to the demons who are seeing it also, like we're seeing in Moscow. They're afraid. People are afraid that the Hare Krishnas can have a venue, a way to spread the holy name, to bring people in. They're thinking, I remember when I joined that we used to get this question all the time. What would happen if everybody became a Hare Krishna? We'd say, well, that would be very good. Because they thought, well, if everybody's a Hare Krishna, everyone will have a shaved head, no one will work, and how will we live? And still many people think that. When I was in Chicago, we were distributing books, and there was one policeman there that used to, he was undercover, and he used to like to harass us. Especially he liked to harass me. And he would stand behind me and say, don't take that book, he's Hare Krishna. And then I would joke with him and, try to keep the people from getting too bewildered. So one day I saw him downstairs in a restaurant. So I said, hi, Joe, how you doing? And his friend started shouting, get out of here, go away, I don't want to see your face. So I said, what's wrong? He said, this is my bar here, this is my restaurant. I live by selling meat and whiskey, and you people are against that. And Prabhupada said that's why they're against us. But we know better that everyone can live much better if they're Krishna conscious. There can be so many, like we hear, so many leelas, unlimited, and they're all ever fresh and ever new. It's not the same old thing. Can hear about Lord Chaitanya's leela again and again and again, and every time we hear it, we hear something we didn't hear before. Bhagavad Gita even, every time we read it, it's ever fresh, it's Krishna. Nitya Navana Yovanam. It's always like something new, and because it is something new. In the spiritual world, they're doing the same things, but it always seems like the first time they ever did it. Just like we have kirtan, our Jayananda Prabhu, he used to always say, this was the best kirtan ever. And the devotees would say, well, you said that yesterday. He said, yes, that was also the best one. This is the best prasadam ever. Yes, the realized person. It's Krishna. It's ever fresh. Every time we chant, every time we meet a devotee, we should become joyful to see a devotee. It's one of the offenses against Vaishnava, is to not become joyful on seeing a devotee. But here it's easy to become joyful to see so many devotees, see the unlimited potencies of Lord Chaitanya's Leela still coming alive, not only in drama and theater, but just in the day-to-day activities of all the devotees, chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, offering foodstuffs to the Lord. Lord Chaitanya had so many servants. We heard that Prabhupada said that Krishnadas Kaviraj must have been a very good cook, and our cook should learn, about all these preparations. So I don't know if you've ever go to Panihati. There's the house of Raghava Pandit, where Damayanti and Raghava Pandit, they were very good cooks, and they would prepare all these special sweets for Lord Chaitanya. And their descriptions are given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And she would sometimes use ginger because she was afraid that Lord Chaitanya might get indigestion from all the opulent sweets. So personal. They're not not thinking here's a supreme universal form who can devour unlimited universes and he can eat anything, right? No, but he's the most lovable person that they love, and they're cooking so carefully. So in the house there's a little museum in the showcase with all these samples. They look like real things. They might be like preserved sweets, I don't know, because I don't think they're modern, plastic ones. But all those things are there, and all these descriptions are there. Radharani is cooking. Never cooked the same thing twice. Everything was, and anyone who ate would never get sick. So Mother Yasoda, she wanted Radharani to cook for Krishna, because she wanted to protect her child, keep him in good health like any mother, would want. So we have all this to, join in, to participate. Every day we see Jagais and Madhais being rescued, but in other countries, when we go for Harinam Sankirtan, the drunken people often are the ones that they like to join, and follow along and imitate. But they're getting purified. And just like Jagai and Madhai, they had camped somehow near the Srivasangam, so they could hear the kirtan. They didn't know what the kirtan was. They could hear the music, and they were speculating maybe it's some Durga Puja, there's a wedding party, and maybe it's some drunken, crazy people, but it's nice music, and they would dance. So that's how they got a little purified. They were appreciating. So if anyone even appreciates, that's why we like to get out. We like to get this kirtan party out. How it's revealed. We were just in Mayapur. So when there's a place called Rudradweep. Rudradweep is where Belkapur is, and so that's where Shankaracharya came there, but Lord Chaitanya appeared to him and said, "Don't come here. These people are nice devotees, and they don't really need your Mayavadi philosophy. The Mayavadi philosophy is for other, materialistic people." But Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he had a vision there. He saw a huge kirtan party, Lord Chaitanya and all his associates, in the ecstatic kirtan. We get some idea here, but and then it turned into the Rasa Leela of Krishna. So he saw that this kirtan of Lord Chaitanya, the Rasa Leela, we have a picture in Chaitanya Charitamrita like that. The same eternal associates of Krishna came from Goloka. And in Goloka there's both Navadvip and Braj, and there's no difference. This is all inconceivable. I heard Radhanath Swami yesterday explaining this Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. How else can we understand anything? All these things they're not conceivable. The scientists, the biggest quantum physicists or whatever it is now that's supposed to be the most advanced science, they don't know anything, and they admit it. I heard there's one, Heidelberg's uncertainty principle? Heidelberg's uncertainty principle. They're not sure about that anymore, even. They don't know anything. They admit it. But then still they present, you have to believe everything they say. So if they hear about Krishna, that he's unlimited, and he's the smallest, and he's the biggest, they can't deal with that. They can't deal with any of these things. The soul, the mind even. The more they're trying to study the mind, and they're understanding that they can't find it. They don't know where it is. It's too big. There's no place that the mind is. They used to think it's the brain doing everything, but it's the soul. One of the things that they can't understand is something like 12 things that they say science can't explain. I only remember one, is memory. They can't explain memory. Why don't they read Bhagavad Gita? How does it go? From me come remembrance. How does that go? Mata smriti jnanam apohanam cha. From me come remembrance, forgetfulness, and knowledge. It's all the super soul. And according to one's, different desires and karmas, and we have different capacity to remember things, to forget things. But what we need to remember is Krishna. Some people have, incredible memories. They can memorize. They could go in this room and have everybody stand up and give their name and phone number, and then afterward go around and tell everybody their name and phone number. But they can't remember Krishna at the time of death. Even I heard of one Indian man was supposed to have the world's best memory, so he'd memorized Mahabharata and Ramayana or something. But his son memorized pi to millions of digits. That number pi. He memorized that like millions of digits. Wasting. Remembering, so many things. People are trying to remember. School is just remembering, and but we want to remember Krishna. And that's by the grace of the devotees, by the grace of the spiritual master, by the grace of Lord Chaitanya. He made it so simple. This Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So I don't know how far away people can hear that, but Krishna can hear, he hears us. All of us hear it. And if we chant enough, like we were chanting in Bali one night, the devotees got quite carried away, so we were chanting till like 11:30 at night or something. The neighbors came. They heard the kirtan so many times, but they came and said, well, that sounds so good, what is it? What are you doing? And they stayed for a long time in the kirtan. But when they heard only the half-hour kirtan or something, it didn't register, But the 4-hour one got through to them. So we want to get the Lord Chaitanya, like they said, the devotees on Gaur Purnima, they were restless sitting around the temple. They went out just to serenade Prabhupada. And then he said, now you've understood Lord Chaitanya, you go every day. And then in San Francisco became very famous for, these wonderful kirtans, wonderful Harinam with Tamal Krishna Goswami, Vishnu Jan Swami. The time they were new bhaktas and just joined. Then they went to Los Angeles, and so many devotees they had many parties going out every day in the early days of Los Angeles. They had nothing else to do. But actually we have nothing else to do. It is somehow or other, how are we going to put this in our heart enough to give it to the world where people are suffering? Ultimately, all their suffering is due to being in this material world. So we're doing whatever we can. And we want to remember Krishna. By association of devotees, we can remember Krishna. There's always somebody chanting the holy name. There's always something going on. There's always prasadam. There's many different ways to remember Krishna. We can read Bhagavad Gita. That's also Krishna. It's not something that we leave behind all the way up to Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we've seen that we don't have to read the entire Srimad Bhagavatam before we can hear Gaur Lila. It's the most nectar for everybody. Lord Chaitanya came to give this, to everybody. He went all over India, but he left it for Srila Prabhupada. And Vishnujan also asked, he said that Prabhupada Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, I am leaving with my work is not finished. Why did he do that? Why would he leave? And Prabhupada said, he is Vaishnava. He could have conquered the whole world, but he left it for us. But there's much, much, much to be done. One of our guests here yesterday was asking, what about the Islamic countries? And, of course, there's still a lot of restrictions, but devotees are translating books in these languages. Devotees are meeting, people from all different religions. Even other religious leaders are getting influenced by the Sankirtan movement. Now there's a big Christian vegetarian movement. And they've obviously taken from the Hare Krishna preaching about that, we shouldn't cause suffering to any animals and everyone is a soul and all this. This is Lord Chaitanya's Leelas. It's quite inconceivable to see this temple, and especially, but all the temples. This temple in Ujjain has been maybe maximum 2 years they've been there. And right from the beginning they had hundreds and thousands of people coming every Sunday. Now they have thousands of people every day. People want to hear, they want to get the truth. Everyone wants it. Some people, it's easy to understand they want it, but everyone wants truth. Everyone wants happiness. It's the nature of the soul. But the mind is different. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that the mind and the soul are always at odds. I said that the other day, but they're always at odds with each other because the soul is blissful. That's the quality of the soul, is bliss. So naturally everyone is seeking happiness, but they're being misled. This is Kali Yuga, so they're being misled. Kali has, control over all these advertisements to tell us how we can get happiness, right? There's so many different ways where everyone is getting cheated, but they keep trying until they meet devotees, until they get the contact. And even sadhu sangha, sarva shastra koi. Lava matra sadhu sangha, sarva siddhi hoy. Lord Chaitanya instructed to Sanatana Goswami that this is the perfection stated by all scriptures. Even a moment, even a lava matra is a small part of a second or something. Even that much association with the Vaishnava, with the sadhu, this is the most valuable thing. It's the perfection of all perfections. Because that can change the heart, it can change the direction of one's life. We have many, many stories in modern time. In Lord Chaitanya's Leela, so many stories of all these different types of Jaganmadai were the ultimate, but as a proof of the unlimited mercy of the Lord. But everybody that contacted Lord Chaitanya, they became ecstatic, they became dancing in ecstasy. And everyone who's contacting Srila Prabhupada's movement, Srila Prabhupada had this unlimited energy because of his ecstatic absorption in Lord Chaitanya, to be empowered to just keep going everywhere and always be blissful, always giving Krishna, and at the same time working every night to translate Srimad Bhagavatam, and then Chaitanya Charitamrita, and to empower many devotees to publish these books and now put them in so many languages and distribute them all over the world. This is, I thought of it when I read, Lord Chaitanya is talking about it, I think it's in chapter 8, that he's the gardener right? And the tree of love of Godhead. But he needs help. He said, how can I do this myself? There's so many fruits of love of Godhead. They have to be distributed. I was always thinking those are the books, Prabhupada's books. They have to be distributed, but Prabhupada said he couldn't do it himself. He needed help. So he gathered, Krishna sent him so many helpers. Prabhupada said like that, whatever I wanted. I didn't do anything. I wanted a beautiful magazine. Krishna sent people to make back to Godhead. Wanted temples, and somehow people came that could build temples. So many things, but there's unlimited fruits, and all these devotees are fruits of love of Godhead. They're fruits of Srila Prabhupada's love for Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya's love for us. His compassion just for the suffering of the conditioned souls. Whatever kind of suffering, we want to help them, but ultimately the cause of all our suffering is forgetfulness of Krishna. If someone is purely Krishna conscious, and even the external circumstances are full of suffering, Srila Prabhupada, the doctor, said the pain must be so intense, but he never exhibited any. Recently we heard about Bhakti Tirtha Swami. He would talk about the pain in such a detached way. It was mind-boggling. And we can't imagine. Nobody that hasn't, we can't imagine what kind of pain. But the devotee, somehow or other, is able to, identify then with the soul and understand what everything is all about. And all these people, they're all suffering, and they're thinking, we'll get more hospitals, more doctors, more medicine. But I meet many pharmacists, especially in London. Many of the devotees that come there are pharmacists. So I always ask them, what's the main medicine? It's always this, whatever the current antidepressant medicine is the biggest thing going. We can't keep up with all of them because they always say we have a better one. We found out that the previous one was really quite bad, but we have a better one now. And then a few weeks later, we found out that one's not very good. People are depressed. Why are they depressed? Because they think they're the body. They identify with the mind, identifying with this temporary nature. Everything is, you can't hang on to anything. So they need to hear this Chaitanya Leela. They need to hear something. They need to maybe just kirtan and prasad for many people. In the beginning, that brings everyone. Srila Prabhupada once said, it was in Hyderabad actually, he said, don't even tell people they're not the body, just get 4 hours kirtan and prasad. They can't understand any philosophy. But even many devotees are, we're like that. We need that. Everybody needs it. Purification, kirtan, ecstatic sound vibration, and whatever way we can. Lord Chaitanya did dramas. The house of Chandrasekhar is there at the Chaitanya Mutt in Mayapur. That his house was in that spot, and that's where they did drama. Lord Chaitanya liked to do drama, and he played in the drama. So that particular one, he was Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. He costumed himself so expertly that even Sachi Mata didn't know who he was. She was wondering, who is this? Nityananda was Rukmini, right? Huh? Gopi. And they couldn't recognize him. Haridas Thakur was Narada Muni. Who? Policeman, keeping things awake. And Srivas was Narada Muni. Yeah, he was a narrator, introducing everybody. So and it went all night. Seemed like a night of Brahma. And all kinds of very intimate pastimes were happening, and very hard to discuss. But this was entertaining everybody, this drama. Krishna Leela, Nityananda, when he was a child, he did these dramas. At a very young age, he did all the avatars, perfect dramas of all the avatars and all the different leelas of Krishna and all the different avatars, one after another. He engaged all the young boys and gave them perfect, direction, like our Bhakti Marg Swami does now in Mayapur. He gathers together all kinds of kids and somehow gets them all to act perfectly in a very short time, and everybody gets absorbed in the Krishna Leela. And the people were wondering, how can this young boy, Nitai, know all these things? He never read a book. He's a kid. He said, but what did he say? He said, this is my Leela. Of course I know. How can I not know? So this is, just like Lord Chaitanya, he was giving, many times he would be telling people who he was, but they didn't understand, like Kolavecha Sridhar. He would say, why don't you give to me? I am Gangapati. You are worshipping Ganga. What about me? I'm the father of the Ganga. And he would think, this boy is so puffed up. How can he talk like that? Later he was lamenting, how did I not recognize, who this boy was? But this is the mercy of the Lord. He would have all these relationships with everybody, and sometimes they would recognize who he was. And he would say, how did you know? And they would say, you can't cover, such a thing. But most of the time they were not in that mood. Just like the gopis, they knew so much, and they knew the demigods, they knew, the Vaikuntha, they knew, but they were just thinking that Krishna's, whatever, depending on their age, he's our most beautiful boy they want to marry, or other older gopis would think he's a young boy in the village. Nobody could understand Krishna. When he entered the wrestling arena, the wrestlers saw death personified, the yogis saw the super soul, the gopis saw the beautiful boy of the village, the older gopis saw just a young village boy, the yadus saw someone, family member, all different things, and the foolish people thought he's a foolish person. And Lord Chaitanya also, people couldn't understand. The Hindus, the Mayavadis, those students, they couldn't understand it. But gradually he inundated everyone in the ecstatic flood of this Sankirtan movement, and it's still going on. And many people still, they cannot understand this movement. Couldn't understand Srila Prabhupada. People were thinking, these devotees, they don't work. What will happen if everyone joins them? We used to, in the airport in Chicago, in the old days when we were more or less unrestricted, there was about 12 of us in one little hallway. And we distribute many, many books, and the millions of people are coming, like just floods of people. And the workers used to come up from underneath to watch. And they would ask us, how much money do you get? They say, we don't take any. No, how can you do? They thought, we're crazy, we're intoxicated, we must be keeping all the money, otherwise, why would anybody work 12 hours a day like that in such a... But they couldn't understand. And still many people can't understand. Different countries, they can't understand, what is this benediction for the whole universe that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came. And he brought with him this Sankirtan movement and broke it open, the storehouse of love of God, which was not very accessible previously. That if we just chant the holy name, I heard one devotee speaking one time how prema bhakti is so rare that practically no one can ever get it, and it's just. And somehow I thought that's not what I heard when I joined. We always heard like just chant and Prabhupada's mercy, and so I looked up in the Veda-based prema bhakti, and it's said over and over again. It's very easy. Everyone can get it. You just chant the holy name. You just recite Shastaka every day, and of course it has to be done with sincerity and faith and all those other things. But it's not that no one can have it. Lord Chaitanya made it for everybody, and Prabhupada made it even more easy. Prabhupada once said, hold on to my dhoti and I'll get you in the back door into the Goloka, into Krishna. If we stick to it, I heard yesterday, if we just chant the 16 rounds, we just follow the principles. But Prabhupada said even not everyone can do that, because chant 16 rounds attentively when we're chanting. It's a special mercy that Krishna manifests himself. Krishna will appear. Krishna is dancing on the tongue of the chanter. It's not that we are doing something, but somehow or other Krishna will come, and if we can be grateful that he's come and beg him to stay and somehow make our mind and heart a suitable place, just like we always making the altar more nice, right? Always trying to make everything nicer and more nice for Krishna so that he'll stay there. We want to take care of him. We heard in Mayapur at the Jagannath temple in the beginning there was confusion because the property wasn't really signed over to us, and Jayapataka Maharaj had said, don't start the intense puja until we get everything finished. But the pujari didn't know that. So he started, bringing all the bhoga from Mayapur and offering everything to Jagannath. And then he heard that he wasn't supposed to, so he stopped. And then he had a dream, and he went in and they weren't there. And he saw Jagannath going across the field, and he chased him, and he said, I'm going to Mayapur, you're not going to feed me here.